He didn't even ask me if it was true. My father just stood there, jaw tight, eyes hard, like he'd been waiting for a reason to stop seeing me as his son. "You're not coming back into this house," he said. "Not now. Not ever." That's how it started. That's how 17-year-old me found out that being a big brother, being protective, careful, maybe too watchful, could be twisted into something else entirely. I'm Eric, 33 now. I live alone, out in a town I won't name because privacy's the one thing I own outright. But back then I was just a kid fresh into senior year with a football scholarship on the horizon and a reputation for being the steady one. Responsible. Boring even. My little sister, Mallory, was 15. She was smart. Charming. Everyone loved her, especially the kind of guys who knew how to exploit both. I wasn't a hero. I just looked out for her. We'd grown up tight, close, the way siblings sometimes are when they're forced to raise each other more than they should have to. When I found out she was sneaking out to meet some college guy twice her age, I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I told her she had to stop. That I'd tell mom and dad if I had to. She panicked. And that's when she said it. She made up a lie, a vile, unthinkable accusation. She said I'd touched her. Said I'd done things I hadn't even imagined, let alone committed. And they believed her. Without hesitation. Without a single question. I was arrested the next morning. My mother wouldn't even look at me when they handcuffed me in the driveway. I was 18. Legal adult. Charged. Booked. Processed. The lawyer they found for me was court-appointed. A public defender with too many cases and not enough time. He told me the evidence was thin. That there were inconsistencies in her story. That we might win if it went to trial, but if we lost, I'd face real time. Registry. Lifetime stigma. He looked me in the eye and said, "Take the deal. You'll be out in 3 years. No jail. Just probation. But you'll have to register." I asked him if he thought I was guilty. He shrugged. That was the last time I trusted anyone who was supposed to protect me. The deal was supposed to be mercy. That's what they called it. No jail time. Just 5 years of probation. And the registry, of course. Always the registry. I took it because I had nothing else. My parents cut me off completely. I didn't even have a ride home from the courthouse. I walked 6 miles back to a friend's house wearing the same clothes I'd been arrested in. He let me sleep on his couch for a few weeks, but after the whispers started, after his mom found out who I was, he said I had to go. Can't blame him. People treat you like you've got some kind of infection. Like the accusation itself is proof. Nobody wants to hear that it was all a lie. Nobody wants to believe the golden child could make something like that up. So I disappeared. Rented a storage unit with what little money I had. Slept in my car. Worked night shifts wherever I could. Janitor. Warehouse grunt. Fast food line cook. I stopped telling people my real name. Got used to lying about my past because the truth only made things worse. I didn't talk to anyone for almost a year. Not until I met someone at a gas station. Old guy named Reese. Owned a towing company and needed someone to man the phones overnight. Said I looked like I needed a break. I didn't tell him why I really needed the job. He didn't ask. He paid cash. I worked for Reese for 7 years. Saved everything. Lived small. Ate cheap. Every dollar I made went into a quiet little savings account under a name nobody connected to that file. The registry haunted everything. Jobs. Housing. Friendships. One background check and it was over. I kept my head down. Watched life pass like a movie playing on someone else's screen. Mallory? She went on like nothing happened. Graduated. Traveled. Got married. And me? I kept existing. Until I got a call that changed everything. From a number I didn't recognize. A man's voice, low and cautious. "Eric? My name's Mason. I married your sister. And I think she's been lying to me." I didn't say anything at first. Just stared at the wall, gripping the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. "I'm not calling to stir up anything," Mason said. I need to understand what I read." I kept my voice flat. "You said you're her husband?" "For years. We've got a little boy. And until 2 nights ago, I thought I knew everything about her." He paused. I found a journal. I didn't breathe. It wasn't hidden. Just tucked in a drawer I never opened before. She wrote about high school. About a lie she told. Said it got someone close into a lot of trouble. She didn't name you, but it didn't take much to figure it out. I closed my eyes. She said she felt cornered. That you were always watching her, always hovering. She was scared you'd tell your parents about her boyfriend, so she said something big. Something she thought they'd never ignore. And they didn't, I said quietly. He went quiet. Then I didn't know if I should believe it. But then I looked you up. Found the record. Still active, I muttered. Still haunts every background check. He cursed under his breath. I confronted her, he admitted. She broke down. Said it wasn't supposed to go that far. That she didn't think you'd actually get charged. That she was young and scared and didn't know how to fix it once it started. And now, she wants to forget it ever happened. Pretend the journal didn't exist. Of course she does. She begged me not to tell anyone, he added. I finally spoke with weight in my voice. You called me. So what do you want, Mason? Another silence. Then, I want to fix this. However I can. You deserve that much. I didn't trust him. Not yet. But 2 weeks later, a package arrived at the UPS box I kept under a fake name. Inside, a notarized confession signed and dated by Mallory. And suddenly, I wasn't just a name on a list anymore. I was a man with leverage. I read her confession 3 times. It was short, clinical, no emotion. I fabricated the allegations made against my brother, Eric W. I was 15 and scared. I lied to protect myself from consequences. What happened to him as a result was not his fault. Signed, dated, notarized. It wasn't remorse. It was exposure. A survival move probably coached by her husband. But I didn't need her to cry. I just needed her to confirm on paper what I already knew. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Not a public defender. A real one. Paid in full up front with the cash I'd saved working night shifts and hiding from the world. He reviewed the confession and said only one thing. Let's move. We filed a motion to vacate the conviction. Submitted the new evidence. Attached character affidavits, psychological evaluations, every record I'd kept from probation to the registry. The state tried to stall. Claimed it was too late. Said her recantation might not be reliable. But once they saw the documentation, once the notary confirmed it, they folded faster than I expected. 10 years of forced silence ended in a 20-minute courtroom hearing. The judge read through the materials without looking at me once. Then he removed his glasses, sighed, and said, Mr. Winters, this court finds that a grave injustice occurred. The charges are vacated. Your record is cleared. Just like that. People clapped. My lawyer squeezed my shoulder. And I walked out of that building free for the first time since I was 17. But this wasn't a happy ending. Because the moment I stepped into the sunlight, I realized who still hadn't called. Not my mother. Not my father. Not a word. Not a text. Not a message. 10 years. And still, nothing. The article went up that evening. Man wrongly accused by sister cleared after 10 years, confession reveals fabricated claim. It didn't have my photo, just initials and a few quotes from the legal team. But the story spread fast in our hometown. Small places eat their own when there's blood in the water. And they love to act shocked when the victim survives it. The first call came from my father. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Eric, we saw the news. Your mother and I, we didn't know. If you just told us there was a chance, if you'd explained. I deleted the message halfway through. The second call came from my mother. Her voice cracked with effort. We're so sorry, sweetheart. We didn't understand. We want to make this right. Please call us. No. Because the part they never got, still didn't get, was that I had tried to explain. I'd stood in front of them in that sterile police room, handcuffed and shaking, and begged them to believe me. And they hadn't. They'd made a choice. A third call came the next day. This one from a lawyer. We represent Mr. and Mrs. Winters. They'd like to offer a settlement for emotional damages, $50,000, tax-free. No strings. Just an acknowledgement of what you've endured. I stared at the phone like it had just grown teeth. $50,000. As if a check could undo a decade of erased identity. As if money could backfill a lost future. They wanted to buy peace, not give it. I said nothing. Didn't even reply. Instead, I packed a bag and booked a one-way ticket to a city where nobody knew my name. Because I didn't want a settlement. I wanted distance. And they were about to learn the cost of losing a son you never fought for. I landed in Portland with a duffel bag, a laptop, and a stack of notarized truth. No fanfare. No welcome. Just clean air, tall trees, and a blank slate. First thing I did? Filed for a name change. Not because I was hiding, but because I was done being who they defined. I carried their last name for 33 years. Let them keep it. Let it rot on their mailbox like it meant something. Second thing, I got to work. With the conviction vacated, I could finally get certified again. I'd been working IT under the table for years, repair shops, freelance gigs. But now I filed for state licensure. Registered an LLC. reclaimed the credentials that were taken before I'd even had a chance to use them. The work came fast. Turns out, when you're quiet, thorough, and reliable, word spreads. By month 3, I had more contracts than I could handle. Mid-sized businesses, startups with security holes. I built high, worked fast, and kept my mouth shut. My past wasn't a secret, I just stopped volunteering it. People respected that. But one afternoon, sitting in my rented office space with a view of the Willamette River, I got an email from a name I hadn't seen in years. Subject line, from Mallory. I stared at it for a long time before clicking. Inside was a single sentence. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. No drama. No please. Just black text on white. And you know what? I didn't feel anything. Because by then I'd already moved on. Because some things, when broken, don't go back. They stay broken. And that's where the story ends for her. But not for me. After that email from Mallory, I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty. Just clarity. She'd had 10 years to fix it. 10 years to stop the bleeding. 10 years to speak. Before lawyers, before headlines, before a stranger had to dig her confession out of a drawer. Instead, she waited until her lie cost her something. And now that it had, now she was sorry. I archived the email. Didn't delete it. Didn't reply. Just let it sit. An artifact of the life they tried to bury me in. A week later, my father sent a letter. Actual paper. Handwritten. Careful script like he thought he was writing scripture. We know we failed you. We believed something horrible without ever asking for your side. Your mother cries about it every night. We want to see you. To speak in person. Please let us. At the bottom, we'll be in Portland next Thursday. Staying at the Heathman. I read it twice. Then folded it once and set it beside the toaster. Not once in 10 years had they called to ask if I was surviving. Not once had they questioned her. But now that the shame had turned public, now that the town whispered in grocery store aisles and church foyers, now they wanted reconciliation. Let them come. Let them sit in that hotel suite waiting for the son they abandoned. I wasn't going. Thursday came. I didn't move. The voicemail came in around 6:12 p.m. Eric, we're here. In the lobby. We've been waiting. Please, son. Just 15 minutes. 15 minutes? They gave up on me in 5. They flew across the country expecting redemption. Expecting tears, maybe hugs, maybe a cathartic release like in the movies. But this isn't a movie. This is what happens when you weaponize your trust against the one person who never raised his voice, even when the world called him a monster. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't send hate. I just didn't show. Because their guilt wasn't my burden to lift. After that Thursday, the calls slowed. The letters stopped. I think they finally understood that some doors close without slamming. They just stop opening. Instead, I focused on the work. My IT business tripled in under a year. Companies appreciated what I brought. No ego, no upsell, no fluff. Just results. I started mentoring kids through a local program. Young guys with records, with pasts nobody wanted to look past. I never told them everything. But they could feel it. The way I listened. The way I didn't judge. One day, a kid named Marcus asked, "You ever been inside?" I shook my head. Worse, I got out without ever going in. But I still carried it every day. He nodded. Didn't press. He understood. That's the thing people don't get. False accusations don't just take your present. They rewrite your past. They poison your future. They make people forget who you were before the lie. But I never forgot. And now, neither would anyone else. Because the final piece of my quiet plan was almost ready. It started with a domain name. Just my first and middle name, no last name. Clean. Unsearchable unless you knew where to look. Then I built the site. Simple, no frills. Black text. White background. A single-page timeline. From the day I was arrested to the day my name was cleared. Police documents. Court transcripts. The original plea deal. Mallory's confession, redacted for privacy, but unmistakably real. And at the bottom, a video. Me, speaking directly, calmly, precisely. I didn't come here to accuse. That was already done to me. I didn't come here to forgive. That's not owed. I came here to show what happens when we choose convenience over truth, when silence replaces questions. If this happened to you, I believe you. And if you did this to someone, I hope you realize what it cost them. What it still costs. I didn't post it anywhere public. I didn't want viral. I wanted accuracy. Then I emailed it. Quietly. Strategically. To every law professor I could find. Every Innocence Project. Every local journalist who covered my case 10 years ago. No accusations. Just a subject line, correction to a story you covered. By the end of the week, it had been downloaded 6,000 times. The story started surfacing again. But now it came with names. With dates. With evidence. No more rumor. No more fog. Just the one thing they never expected me to have. Control. The fallout came faster than I expected. Local papers started calling it the winter's reversal. One headline read, "False accusation, family silence, and the 10-year sentence that never should have happened." Old teachers, neighbors, church elders, the ones who'd once looked away when I passed, started reaching out. Apologies dressed as sympathy. Hollow phrases like, "We didn't know," and "if only we'd asked questions." I ignored them all. Because now the spotlight wasn't mine, it was theirs. My father resigned from his school board seat. Said it was time to focus on family. Translation, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. My mother stopped volunteering at her church after someone left a printout of my confession page on her windshield. As for Mallory, her husband filed for separation. I never asked why. I didn't need to. I'd learned a long time ago, when you build something on lies, it doesn't matter how well it's furnished. Eventually, the foundation cracks. A podcast picked up the story. Then a YouTube commentary channel. I watched a stranger dissect my life on screen. Clip by clip. Document by document. The twist that got everyone? The part where Mallory's confession wasn't emotional. It wasn't even regretful. Just clinical. Tactical. Like a chess move. That's when public sympathy dried up. People can forgive weakness. They don't forgive cold strategy. And that was the irony. After 10 years of exile, I'd become the one thing they never expected. Credible. A year after the exoneration, I got a letter from a documentary producer. Said she wanted to tell the human side of justice through my case. Said she believed my story could educate people. I said no. I wasn't interested in being anyone's symbol. I wasn't a lesson. I was a man who lost a decade to someone else's fear, and I wasn't handing that pain over for a screenplay. But I did agree to one thing. I wrote a piece. A long-form editorial for a quiet publication that reaches the right readers, judges, lawmakers, defense attorneys. I laid out everything. The accusation, the lie, the cost, and the aftermath. But I didn't name her. Not once. Because that wasn't the point. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about visibility. See, the law doesn't know what to do with false accusations once they're retracted. There's no template. No real restitution. They wipe your record, but they don't wipe the years. And no one apologizes under oath. No one pays your rent while you disappear into side jobs in silence. So I wrote the piece for the ones like me. Not the innocent. The forgotten. And when it ran, emails flooded in. Men, women, parents, brothers, all of them saying the same thing. They didn't believe me either. You can't get time back. You can't rewind your 20s. Or fix the birthdays you missed. Or reapply for jobs you never got because someone typed your name into a database and saw a label that wasn't yours. What you can do is stop apologizing for surviving. I don't flinch when someone asks about my past now. I don't rush to explain it either. If they're worth knowing, they'll listen. If they're not, I don't waste the breath. A few months back, I ran into someone from the old neighborhood. Used to be one of my dad's golf buddies. He looked surprised, like he was seeing a ghost. "You look good, Eric," he said. "Heard about everything. Hell of a story." I just nodded. He waited. Maybe for me to say it was okay. That I understood. That I forgave them for believing a lie before asking a question. But I didn't say any of that. I just looked him in the eye and said, "Yeah, it is a hell of a story." Then I walked away. Because I wasn't there to make him feel better. I was there to remind him that I was still standing. And that maybe the quietest man in the room is the one who already won. They sent Christmas cards that year. My parents. Glossy. Scripted. Fake. A photo of the front porch I grew up on, now decorated like it belonged to someone else. Like nothing ever happened there. No shattered trust. No courtroom. No cold nights alone. Inside, scrawled in my mother's soft, round handwriting. "We're thinking of you. Hoping someday you'll let us explain. Love, Mom and Dad." Explain? There was nothing left to explain. You can't explain absence. You can't reason away betrayal dressed as protection. They didn't miss me. They missed who I used to be. The obedient son, the quiet fallback, the one who never made them question their authority. But I wasn't him anymore. I had a new name, a new city, a business with employees who respected me not because they were told to, but because they'd seen what I could do. I had evenings now. Peace. Silence that didn't feel like punishment. I still had the notarized confession. Still kept the original plea deal. Not for revenge. For record. Because memory fades. But paper doesn't lie. One night I drove out to the edge of the city. Looked at the skyline. Pulled out that Christmas card. And dropped it in a trash can. Still sealed. Still perfect. Just not mine. I don't carry their photo anymore. Used to keep one in my wallet. Family shot, Christmas 2004. Me in a cheap red sweater, Mallory grinning at the camera like she'd never hold a match to everything we were. I took it out the day I signed my new name into legal record. Let it sit on the counter for a while. Watched the edges curl in the sunlight. Then dropped it in the shredder. Not out of spite. Out of finality. I spent years wondering how they could believe her without asking me once. Now I don't. Because the answer doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what I built after. A life where I don't wake up checking a registry. A job that values my work, not my backstory. A name that no one has to whisper. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about that kid, 18, cuffed, shaking, hoping someone would say, this doesn't sound like him. No one did. So he learned to stop needing it. He learned that the only validation worth anything comes from what you build after the fall. And when people ask now quietly, cautiously, how did you survive that? I smile and tell them the truth. I stopped trying to get back what was lost and started making something no one could take. They still live in the same town, still show up at church, still sit through sermons about grace and forgiveness, nodding at the right parts, pretending they understand what those words mean. Mallory moved in with her parents after the separation. Her husband took the kid. From what I hear, she doesn't work, doesn't talk to anyone outside of them. And that's fine. Let them have each other. Let them live in the silence they built. As for me, I kept going. The business expanded quietly, steadily. I bought a modest house overlooking the river. No name on the mailbox. No framed photos on the walls. Just space. Just peace. I don't talk about the past unless someone asks. And even then, I don't tell them everything. Because it's not about the details. It's about what came after. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't chase justice with fire. I built it. Brick by careful brick. Not to prove them wrong, but to remind myself I was never who they said I was. They wrote me off. Erased me like I was disposable. But I didn't disappear. I just walked away. And when they finally turned around to look for me, I was already gone.